One of the major concept in design is the principle of proximity. Now, there was a scientist or psychologist called Gestalt, and this is one of his principle. He researched on human psychology of perception, and one of them is grouping. This is used a lot in design. So if you make it or use it in a different sense, then it is not going to create a very good or pleasant information display or the design. So make sure that you are using it accurately. Now you can see at the bottom, you see different these sections, and you can clearly see that these two sections are apart or different, even though they are the same circles. So they are all circles, but they are apart, or they are not considered one group, because there are two reasons behind it. Number one is the distance, the spacing. You can see that these are a lot away from the red ones. So blue ones are a lot away from red ones. Second difference between them is different color. So you can see this principle of proximity or grouping. This principle of proximity must be applied accurately. So whenever you are designing, you can use white space to separate items. You can use colors to separate items. You can use different shapes to separate items. Let's learn more about proximity. There is one other thing you need to keep in mind when you are grouping items together in your design, that they must be related to each other. They must be of similar information. So similar information, related information that must go together should go together. Don't try to mix all different items and put them in just one space and say, oh, I have used proximity because all information should be at one place. Okay, so that grouping, your chunking of information, different sections, they must make sense. So it is also called chunking of information, and it is one of the basic, or I think major concepts of UI design, because you have to create there is a lot of information that has different purposes. So you need to group them together in different chunks. Now here are a few techniques you can use while you are designing to create different chunks or groups or sections. Number one is try to use white space. So now you can see, if you look at this slide, the top portion is separated by a thin line to the bottom of this slide. So the bottom or footer of this slide is Making Your Designs Ugly to Awesome by Muhammad Ahsan Pervez. And the top section is the content. So you can see I am using here white space to create different sections. Also, I'm using this line along with this white space to make sense that this is separate and the top section is separate. Second thing is that you need to create different sections. So sections is, again, you can create sections using white space or different colors. Sections is also a similar thing like creating different chunks of information. So actually you are creating different sections using white space, using colors, using lines, using different shapes. For example, you might try to use a rectangular or maybe a hexagonal shape or something like that to separate the top portion with the portion below. So there could be many things. You might use shadows. There you might use a lot of shadow on the top portion to separate it, that it is above this section which is below it. So this is how you are going to create different groups and chunks. You can also use lines. You can also use borders to create the section or separate that section. So there are many ways. I am going to show you in the next lesson few examples, few designs, so this concept get cleared, or this concepts get more penetrated in your minds, because this is very important. This is really, really important. I have seen a lot of designers doing this wrong in a lot of places. So let's see some examples. So let's move on to the next lesson.